bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to 2016. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. That's right, today is Monday, January 4th. 4 days into the new year, folks. 361 days left. As always, we are live from downtown Burbank, California. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, KGRA, and Talk Network, I'm your oh so humble host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Let's do this. Tonight's a very special night. This is our premiere on Talk Network, talknetwork.com. And for all of those new listeners here, I need to say thank you to Dean Ryan, David Rubini, Don Naylor, and of course, Mike Adams. Natural News, the team at Talk Network. A lot of work went into the preparation for tonight's show, and we are here. It is now. It is the now. And Talk Network joins our syndication team of KGRADB, The Planet. We are taking over the world one day at a time. For everybody joining the show tonight for the first time, just let me give you the rules and what this show is about. This is late night talk radio at its finest. What we do here is long form conversation. No agenda, nothing premeditated, no list of formulated 20 questions. That's not what happens here. What happens here is a throwback to days gone past, late night talk radio that is engaging, that would suck you in, that would allow your imagination to go places, to investigate the questions that nobody else will deal with. There's lots of things going on this planet of ours, and we discuss all of that every single night on this show. So kick back, pull up your blankie, grab your computer, get close to that speaker. Get your smoke of choice, your drink of choice. Get comfortable and enjoy. Because by the end of the program, you are going to be somewhere else. And that is my promise, and that is what we do every single night on Fade to Black. On this show, we have only the very best, brightest guests out there. We have very, 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 very high standards on this show. Tonight, very special guest, David Wilcock is here. A little bit later on in the show, Corey Good is going to be joining us for the conversation. Tomorrow night, right here on Fade to Black, Peter Lavenda is here, one of the best researchers on the New World Order and what is going on, conspiracy. He is the absolute supreme best. Tomorrow night, Peter Lavenda is here. On Wednesday, Robert Sullivan IV, We're going to be talking about cinema symbolism and Hollywood. That is on Wednesday. And then Thursday night is our open lines night. Every Thursday is Fader night. Calls all night long. This is a caller-driven show. We take calls all night long. We are always back. It is one of the best parts of Fade to Black is taking calls. Now, for all of you new listeners, check this out. Very important. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do. The sandbox that runs in real time during the show on Twitter is hashtag F2B. F, the number 2, and B. Okay? Get yourself tweet deck, by the way, because to my left in the studio here in the bunker, Twitter's running full speed. We run every single night on this show 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 tweets per show. It's audience driven. That stays live to my left. Next to that in TweetDeck, I have a question column, which is hashtag F2BQ. If you have any questions for myself or the current guests, like tonight, David Wilcock and Corey Good, feed that to me at hashtag F2BQ. I will see your questions in real time. It's one of the only shows like this in the world. It's the way I do things. So come, hang out, get comfortable, have fun. That's what this show is. Okay? Open-ended conversation and a trip to the fringe. That's what we do. So with that, let's get this show cracking. I'm going to say really quick, had a great weekend, family. We had 4 straight days off, which never happens. And after a 4-day weekend, and looking at the news events that went down, the world is in flux. And I had posted and just thought about 2016 and the sound of it coming off of my lips. 2016 sounds good. 2015 didn't roll off the lips. 2016, there's hope, and then we just go into a New Year's weekend with some of the craziest news out there. We're going to cover some of that in a little bit, but it was just for all of the celebration and things that were going on. It just brings you back down, doesn't it? And you just realize that the world is in flux. There is high strangeness out there right now. But if we just move forward one step at a time, all of us just one little step better, one little step happier, one little step tastier. Together, we can affect change. So let's do that. Let's roll into 2016 just a little bit better than we were yesterday. And if we do, it's all going to be good. All right? Let's get this show cracking. This week on Coast to Coast, Friday, my guest will be Sean Stone. And on Saturday, my guest will be William Henry. So that's what's going on Coast. So we have a great week lined up on Fade to Black, and then we roll over to Coast for Friday and Saturday, and then one day off, and then we hit the ground running next Monday. On Monday, we have, and I'm going to announce this in a few days, but on Monday, we potentially have the guest is booked, but I'm potentially our biggest guest ever. And we're going to announce it. And when we do, get ready. It's going to be one of those, you're going to read that, you're going to go, no, okay, this is taking it a step too far. But just wait till you see what we have in store for you on Monday. A couple of notes really quick. Studio Dome surround sound speakers. That special is going to continue. We've pulled the Christmas music, of course, out of the commercials. But that's still going on. Go and click. Our advertisers are what support this show. Okay, support the show by supporting our advertisers. A couple of notes with Alien Snowfest. That is coming up in Big Bear, February 5th through the 7th. That is 1 month away. 1 month away. George Norrie, Tom Danheiser, Jason Martell, Linda Moulton Howe, Stanton Friedman, Micah Hanks, Chase Kletzky, Mike Barra, Craig Campobasso, Marshall Klarfeld, and Richard Dolan, all up in Big Bear. So go, support, go. We'll see everybody there. It's going to be great. Conscious Life Expo, we'll be talking to David Wilcock about that. That is coming up February 19th. I can't believe it. It's coming up so quick. And then, of course, Contact in the Desert, too. And everything is updated. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com. You can email throughout the show tonight, jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. For all of you new listeners, okay, when you write me, and that's my real email, jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com, make it good, and the producers will send it in here to me. And make it really good, and I just might write back. Tonight, David Wilcock. A little bit later in the show, Corey Good. Tomorrow night, Peter Lavenda. Wednesday, Robert Sullivan IV. And with that, let's get this show cracking. On this day in history, in 1974, it was a big one. Richard Nixon refuses to hand over the tape recordings and documents that had been subpoenaed by the Senate Watergate Committee. In other words, it was the beginning of the end for Richard Nixon on this day. And you've really got to have some nad to turn down a subpoena. I mean, the writing's on the wall at that point, right? Quick fader fact, malaria is responsible for the death of half of all the people that have ever lived. That is a fader fact. Now, I want to jump ahead to the news. Over the weekend, and I'm actually doing something here in real time, and let me get this queued up. I'm going to queue up because over the weekend, armed protesters up in Oregon took over a federal building. And they are, as of right now, they are refusing to budge until they get what they want. We're going to talk about that in just a second. The number of conservative and patriot voices right now calling for the activists to stand down is rapidly growing, with Ted Cruz now asking for the protesters to stand down peaceably. Oath Keepers have also publicly stated that the Hammond family does not want an armed standoff and nobody has the right to force one on them. And the ranchers, Stephen and Dwight Hammond, surrendered to California law enforcement earlier today. What started Saturday as a rallying support for the two local ranchers that led to a broader anti-government protest, and now an occupation of the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge building near Burns. Now, Real Investigations with Kurt Haskell, which airs Mondays at 1 p.m. PST on TalkNetwork.com. Kurt joins us right now. Kurt, what's the update up there in Oregon?
Hey, how are you doing tonight, Jimmy?
It's all good, Kurt, and thank you for coming in. This is a big deal, and I think strangely enough, it took a little while for the mass media to catch up on this. Now you and Mike Adams and Natural News, you guys have been on this, and Pete Santilli, since it first kicked off. But the national news is like waited until today to talk about it. What's going on?
Right. Well, we have Pete Santilli on the ground, so we've been getting regular updates from him. And Pete tells us that there's about 400 or 500 militia members there now, and they're coming and going. You know, they're occupying the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge buildings. And, it's all peaceful so far. But now the feds have closed all the schools in the area, and they're using them to store their weapons. So they're getting ready for armed conflict, which, you won't hear that on the mainstream media. And Pete Santilli has also told us that he went into a Verizon store to buy more bandwidth today. And he stepped out for a minute, stepped back in, and when he stepped back in, the FBI was on the phone with the store asking the store if he had bought a new cell phone. So what Pete took from that is he believes that the feds are going to somehow shut down all communication with the alternative media in the area, and with the arming of the schools. He believes there's going to soon be an armed conflict there, and the alternative media will be shut down, won't be able to report on it. So that's kind of the latest that we have right now from Pete.
And what about law enforcement up there? I mean, are they armed? And I've heard reports about them just completely backing off, and they don't want anything to do with any type of conflict. What's the local law enforcement and the FBI? What are they up there doing?
Well, they're staying out of the way so far, but they're getting their weapons ready at the schools, so they're not going to stay out of the way for long. And if you think about it, the feds can't afford to look weak again to another militia group, because that's what happened at the Bundy Ranch last year.
Right.
And if they look weak in this incident too, there's going to be more and more and more of these incidents. And of course, the militiamen can't afford to look weak either, because they're standing for the Constitution. They'll put their lives on the line for the Constitution. So it's a very dangerous situation. And this is how I see this going down. I think the feds are going to plant someone in the militia group to start shooting, and they could even shoot with blanks or what have you. And that will make the militia group look bad and give the police the opportunity to either unload on them or maybe fake a death of their own and arrest everybody for felony murder. I think that's how it's going to go down. I really do. Neither group can afford to look bad here.
And I also have noticed a lack of live coverage and video. It seems either they're doing that intentionally in not broadcasting live in case something does flare up. There's that angle. But also maybe an intentional thing coming out of Washington to suppress what is going on up there, too, as well. As far as I know, Pete's the only guy that's running live.
Yeah, I've noticed that, too. And I think it's exactly what you said. I think it's an attempt to suppress what's going on there, because if word of this gets out, well, you're going to see more and more militia members heading up to Oregon to help support the group.
Well, yeah, we need to stay on this, and I'm sure that tomorrow we're going to have some more updates. And Kurt, keep rolling that rock uphill. Thank you so much.
No problem, Jimmy.
There you go. It right now. It is happening right now. Thank you, Kurt Haskell. You can check out his show. It's at 1:00 Pacific time on TalkNetwork.com. It's happening in real time. Is this going to be? Bundy Ranch was one situation, but of course. The other situations around in the past where it flared up and it got out of control. Are we going to see that this time? Let's hope not. It's fluid. It's fluid, and it's happening in real time. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you for everybody over at Natural News for that. Now, on to all of the news that you know nothing about. The fallout of Saudi Arabia's execution of a Shiite cleric is spreading beyond the spat between the Saudis and the Iranians, as other Middle Eastern nations now are choosing sides, and it went down all day today, again in real time. And now world powers Russia and China are getting involved. Bahrain and Sudan announced today that they were severing diplomatic ties with Iran, citing Tehran's blatant and dangerous interference in Bahrain and other Arab countries. Sudan expelled the Iranian ambassador and the entire Iranian diplomatic mission out of the country today. Sudan also recalled its ambassador from Iran. The United Arab Emirates said it was downgrading its diplomatic relations with Iran. The UAE recalled its ambassador in Tehran and said it would also reduce the number of diplomats stationed in Iran. And this is what I was talking about right before we started the news. We go into 2016, high hopes. It's a new year. And it was just between what's going on up in Oregon right now and what is flaring up in the Middle East, as if it wasn't bad enough already over there. These tensions go back, look, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. This is not something new and fresh. And once you just tip the scales or ignite something like this, it has the potential of flaring up and getting out of control quickly. And that's what we're seeing. I just hope that there are some back channel negotiations going on before all of this gets completely out of control. In 1 week, 8 people are believed to have died from a lethal strain of heroin in Massachusetts. The strain has been dubbed Hollywood heroin, because it's branded with that name. They're selling it on the streets as Hollywood. It's not clear how long it has been in the state or what makes this drug so dangerous. There could be a deadly mixture of additional chemicals in this heroin, or it could be so pure that even addicts can't handle it. Extraordinary situation out of Massachusetts. 4 new elements have been added to the periodic table, finally completing the table's 7th row and rendering the science textbooks around the world instantly out of date. The elements, discovered by scientists in Japan, Russia, and America, are the first to be added to the table since 2011, when elements 114 and 116 were added. Now, what makes this so special for all of us? The 4 were verified on December 30th by the U.S.-based International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. In other words, known as IUPAC. They announced that a Russian-American team of scientists at the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research in Dubna and Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories right here in California have produced sufficient evidence to claim the discovery of elements 115, 117, and 118. The body awarded credit for the discovery of element 113 already, which had been claimed by Russian and Americans, but they gave it to a team of scientists from the Riken Institute in Japan. What are they called? Well, there's ununtrium, that's 113, ununpentium, 115, more on that in a second, ununseptium, that is 117, and ununoctium, that is 118. But the question is, what happened to lazarium, element 115? Bob Lazar made this statement about 115 way back, and I'm going to go back and say, what was it? 1990? 1991? As the energy that was utilized for ET spacecraft. That was backward engineered at Area 51. And he brought up 115, how it was, what made it unstable, what made it stable, and so forth. Almost 26 years ago. Pretty crazy. Now, should there be a campaign? We talked about this almost 2 years ago. Should we run a campaign? Should we contact the IUPAC, and get them to name 115 lazarium? And I think it should be. If you're willing to eat MREs, that's right, meals ready to eat, for 3 straight weeks for a military study, the U.S. Army will pay you $200. $200. Participants must be between 18 and 62 years of age and without digestive health issues. A full MRE meal contains about 1,250 calories, and they're designed to sustain soldiers during field missions. That's right. They want you to test drive the MREs. Yeah, write up a report. Do you like it? The Army hopes that the data gathered from this study will allow them to improve MREs. When I was a kid, you know, my dad was in the Army. When I was a kid, we used to love, if we could get our hands on MREs, and back then, they were still in cans, had that funky can opener, but we dug it. We dug the MREs. So I'm almost tempted to sign up for this, just as long as it doesn't involve some secret LSD, MK Ultra. You get it. You get it. $200, 3 weeks, MREs. You can go to usarmy.com and sign up. By the way, the Defense Department is working to develop a battlefield hibernation procedure. Check this. For wounded troops, so that the critical element of time can be mitigated to the advantage of the soldier. According to the Washington Times, the Pentagon is working with Dr. Jeffrey Dobson, an Australian researcher from Queensland's James Cook University, and the Division of Tropical Health and Medicine to develop hibernation drugs that are capable of essentially rewiring the body's natural response to trauma so that deployed troops have enough time to get their injured comrades to real medical attention. Now, think about this for a second. Hibernation drugs. Think about that. I don't know. Something feels a little bit funny right there. Talk about some MK Ultra. Ukraine took its place last Friday as a rotating non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council and was already preparing today, 3 days later, today, to call for a peacekeeping mission to be sent to the Donbass region of Ukraine, where the low-level war between government forces and Russian-backed rebels continues right now. The move is likely to trigger objections from the Kremlin, which continues to deny that they've got anybody there at all in direct conflict. Now, this is the deal. Should we send a UN peacekeeping mission to the Ukraine, to the front line? And if we do that, does that answer the questions about what Putin is saying about what's really on the ground there? It's a very interesting situation, and Ukraine wasted no time. The problem with what has been going on out there, and the media has chosen, I don't know why, but the media has chosen to ignore everything about the Ukraine. Ever since that plane was shot down, everything over there has been hushed. We don't know what's going on. And on the flip side of that, could it be that Putin has given up? There are reports coming out of the Ukraine that the Ukraine has cut off power and electricity to Crimea. That's right. That Crimea right now is in the dark. There is a Russian naval base there that is reportedly running on generator power. But we don't have any direct information about this anywhere. These reports that I'm giving you right now are coming from my boots on the ground right here in Los Angeles. It's a very interesting situation. So with that, let's get out of here. When I come back after this short break, we will be joined by the one and only David Wilcock. And a little bit later on tonight, Corey Good will be joining the show. Tomorrow night, Peter Lavenda is here. We're going to be talking about the New World Order conspiracy, the Fourth Reich, who is really running the world. And he's also got a new book coming out. This is Fade to Black. I'd like to welcome everybody on TalkNetwork.com, KGRA The Planet. This is the Game Changer Network, Bespoke Radio. For the masses, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter, @JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. David Wilcock in 1 minute. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Kletsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fadernauts rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris.
What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Premiering tonight on TalkNetwork.com. And of course, our syndication partners, KGRA, The Planet. Tonight, very special guest David Wilcock is here. Corey Good is going to join us a little bit later in the program. Tomorrow night, Peter Lavenda, right here on Fade to Black. And on Wednesday, Robert Sullivan IV and Hollywood Symbolism. It's going to be a great night. And, of course, Thursday night, Fader night, live calls. David Wilcock is a professional lecturer. He's a filmmaker. He's a researcher of ancient civilizations, consciousness, science, and new paradigms of matter and energy. His upcoming Hollywood film, Convergence, unveils the proof that all life on Earth is united in a field of consciousness which affects our minds and in many fascinating ways. David is also the subject and co-author of the international bestsellers Reincarnation of Edgar Cayce, which explores the remarkable similarities between David and Edgar, features many of David's most inspiring psychic readings, and reveals documented NASA scientific proof of interplanetary climate change and how it directly impacts our DNA. He has appeared on broadcast television, lectured throughout the United States and Japan, published a variety of magazine articles, and appeared on numerous radio talk shows, Coast to Coast AM, and of course Fade to Black. David is also an accomplished musician and composer in a variety of styles, including jazz, fusion, meditative, and world music. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black our good friend, David Wilcock. David, how was your new year?
It's doing very well, Jimmy. I'm working on my third book, The Ascension Mysteries, and I have been in a very intense productivity phase, and I've gotten up to like about page 312 out of 500, so...
Really? It's 24,
yeah.
24 hours, huh?
Well, it's been, yeah. I mean, I had to go into isolation and really just jam on this thing because, you know, that's an old bio that you read, but what the bio didn't say is I have 4 television shows, if you include Ancient Aliens.
Yeah, you know, I could, David, you know, I could go with you and list everything. I don't have that much breath. That's what it would take. Oh yeah, absolutely. And what I wanted to say was, I want to kind of kick off things in a weird way with you tonight. Normally, we start at the beginning and go to the end, but I kind of want to turn things around on you a little bit. And what I had said at the beginning of the show, which I really mean this, is that 2015 is behind us. I want to talk a little bit about that. But 2016 is here, man, and we're moving into the future. And we started off on a rocky start this past weekend with these crazy world events and the way consciousness right now is going around the world. How does humanity, the population of this beautiful planet, deal with all of this negativity that seems like it's raining down on us from all directions?
I want to point out that I grew up in a family that was so poor that if my mother had made $800 less, I would have qualified for the ghetto scholarship to college called Equal Opportunity Program, where they would have paid me to go to college. I grew up in extreme hardship in an impoverished part of upstate New York. And I've learned, and this is part of what the book discusses, that we here on Earth tend to be extremely plagued by fear and anxiety. And the cabal, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, they need to have us in the emergency room. When you're in the emergency room and you're lying there in the ER and you can hear the beeping of the heart monitor and your chest tube is in there, they can come up and suck off of that chest tube and just drain you down. They don't want healthy people. They don't want people to feel good. They don't want people laughing. They don't want people to have friends. They want everybody walking around with earbuds in their ear and their eyes in a phone.
Right.
They don't want us to be feeling good about our lives. And so here's something that I think is really important. Fearlessness. The training of the spiritual discipline of fearlessness, I think, is one of the final stages of initiation that very, very few people ever actually make it to. There are many people who are on a spiritual path. They've nailed down to some degree loving themselves, self-acceptance. They've nailed down patience to some degree. They've nailed down forgiveness to some degree. What about the fearlessness? The fearlessness requires you to understand that we are in a labyrinth. And the labyrinth was built by a cosmic intelligence. And you can go through your entire life and never realize that this is a maze and that there is actually a goal at the end of the maze. You can get stuck in eddy currents and little rivulets within the maze and never even realize where it's taking you or what the point of it is or where you're supposed to be going. And unfortunately, so many people are lured into these little holding cells in the maze where they get into things like a jackpot mentality, right? Everybody wants to be like the Kardashians. Oh, if I take selfies on social media, I'm going to make millions of dollars. No, you're not.
Right.
I'm laughing at my own jokes. I'm not supposed to do.
I'm with you. And why? But why have we had this paradigm shift? Because it's happening right in front of us. And I feel like every single day, is there a way we can like reel ourselves back in and get recentered and think about what we are not only doing to the planet, but to our own minds? Because that is what negativity feeds off of. And it is just coming at us in all directions. Mass media this past weekend, David, that was a dark, dark weekend for everybody when we're supposed to be celebrating the new year. And instead, we're talking about World War III kicking off. And it's frightening.
Well, look, man, they don't want to ever let go of the chokehold. Anytime you're dealing, okay, let's just be clear. You can liken what's happening with the cabal on Earth, and when I say cabal, I mean Bilderberg, New World Order, whatever you want to call it. We'll just use the word cabal.
Sure.
It's fairly neutral. If you can liken what's going on with the cabal on Earth to an emotionally abusive relationship with domestic violence, and that may seem like a facile or overly simplistic analogy, but it actually holds up remarkably well. Because one of the things that you learn once you realize that we are in this labyrinth I'm describing is that it is holographic. It's a spiritual illusion in which the personal issues of each individual are holographically mirrored to us in the collective. So the cabal is not just some faceless nemesis that we can't ever hope to go after. And they've done a brilliant job, as you know, Jimmy, of getting the foot soldiers who are fighting them turning against each other. Look at all the people in this community. Well, shit, I'm not going on if Dave Wilcock's on. I don't want to,
Right.
I mean, that happens all the time, and we're not going to say who, but I mean, come on. There's all kinds of infighting. That's what they want. They don't want unity. That's one thing they have that our community does not have. They really do work together. They may do it because they're afraid for their lives and it's all a pecking order, but they work as a team. And they've been working as a team for thousands of years, pursuing this goal of a new world order, where they, in their little religious cult, are the only ones who get to have a good life, and the rest of us are down on our knees. That's what they want, and they want a lot fewer of us to be their servants. Now, that's not a good, warm, fuzzy thing, okay? That's not something people like to hear. But to get back to our analogy of the domestic violence for a minute.
Right.
That's what happens in a domestic violence relationship. That's what happens when you are in a relationship with a sociopath. That person wants to cut off all of your access to happiness, to social interaction, so that you are effectively constantly under their control. And so what's happening is, in order for somebody to get out of a relationship like that, you have to have the resources within yourself of strength to break free. You have to get a breather. You have to have enough time to breathe so you can actually figure out an exit plan. What's happening is that they are having to do more and more of these false flags and these fake provocations and fear-mongering because they're not getting the high that they used to get. It's like you mentioned in the first half hour, this Hollywood heroin that people are taking that's like so, we don't know why they're dying from it. Maybe it's just really pure, but something's wrong.
Right.
They're not getting the high off of their street drugs of false flags and phony terrorism and, stealing our money. They're not getting the payoff that they used to because there is a vast international alliance working against them. And one of the reasons, Jimmy, why I voluntarily passed up the opportunity to do the whole show by myself, and I told you I want you to bring Corey on,
right,
is because I am not enough. I don't know enough. I don't know the latest, greatest inside intel because I've just been working for 3 weeks on this book. This story is changing so fast that you have to constantly be talking to insiders to keep up with what's going on.
That's right.
Let me give you one example. What the heck happened last week with the top 4 security personnel for Hillary Clinton driving down the road, and this car drives into their oncoming lane at top speed and has a head-on collision with the top of her security team, and they all die.
Right.
And what do we know? We know the cabal can hack a vehicle.
That's right.
So what are they going to do? They're going to pick the most burned out looking guy they can, and they're going to say, oh, well, of course he was on a nod, and he drifted over into the oncoming lane. No, that's not what happened. It's too freaking convenient, man. It's too convenient that the 4 guys that are her top security people just so happen to get in a head-on collision, and they all burn to death. What were they going to say? What were they going to release? Did they think that they had it covered? Did they think that nobody knew that they were about to do this?
Right.
That's the kind of questions we have to be asking right now. You have to look at why does the Western media want you to hate Vladimir Putin and Russia? And you and I, of course, know the answer already. Because they're out there leaking like a sieve.
That's right. And where is the responsible journalist to report on this effectively? Not only with Hillary, but our relationship with Putin. Where is that responsible guy or gal that is willing to just go out there and put themselves, because that's the way effective reporting used to be. Where you're not
going to get it in a 6-figure an episode television show. It doesn't exist.
No, it does
You're
not.
You're going to get it in stuff like what I'm doing on Gaia, and you're going to get it in talk radio like what we're doing here with Mike Adams, Natural News, and you merging with him, which, by the way, congratulations, man. You deserve it. It's totally awesome. And I have my hat off to you for that.
Yeah,
so,
thank you so much. And
even though I never wear a hat because it'll make me bald.
And when you speak, not only on this show, and I know you get lots of feedback, and you've got, Guy, but when you speak out in public, and we'll be doing that, can you believe it? In 3-4 short weeks, we'll be doing Conscious Life together. I know. It's like last year just blew by, and here we are again. But when you go out there and speak, how much of feedback do you get from people that are in attendance where they come up and go, dude, exactly right? Exactly right, because that is where the message gets out. It gets out speaking live in public, shows like this, but it's not going to happen on CNN. It's not going to happen on Fox. It happens right here, right now. And the other part about that, David, is I think Fox and just pick one of the 3-letter networks would be shocked if they knew how large our audience was and how much people care and listen. They would be shocked. They wouldn't believe the numbers.
There are certain talk radio talents out there that we're not going to say who they are, but they have such a massive, massive following, and that they're charging for it, that they have so much money they have no idea what to do with it. And they're going after the government. And I heard this from one of my insiders. This guy's literally making millions a month, and he doesn't know what the heck to do with it. Do I invest it? Well, then they're probably going to take my investments. Do I buy gold? But then somebody could steal it, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, even my show with Corey Good, Cosmic Disclosure, we have the metrics to prove that there's more people watching Cosmic Disclosure than are watching CNN.
That's right.
So, and we're not anywhere near what I'm talking about this talk radio show is doing. People want the truth, and they're willing to go all the way back to the oldest technology for communication that we have in order to hear it. Because the truth is sweeter than propaganda. People are tired of drinking vinegar. They don't want to drink motor oil. They want to drink something that's nice. And this is actually something that increases your health and makes you feel better. So
yeah, totally. And I had said, and you probably read this, I posted last week, and I know I was having like a kumbaya moment, but what I had said to everybody, and I said it at the beginning of this show, if it going into 2016 collectively, us, if we just are just a little bit better, a little bit tastier, a little bit nicer, one step at a time, we can beat this thing.
Well, it's more than that, Jimmy. You're absolutely correct, but we have to clarify why you're correct. And that is, remember what I said before. I'm trying to build a structure that we can keep referring back to throughout the show. So I mentioned the idea of a labyrinth.
Right.
Some people think they know what I'm talking about when I say that. And they think that what I mean is, the Federal Reserve is controlling us, and if you look at the number on the dollar, that's a stock number, and everybody's social. No, I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm not talking about the fact that the media is lying to you. I'm not talking about the fact that 5 corporations own all the cable channels and own all the newspapers, and everybody knows that. Everybody who's bothering to listen to this show, yes, they're going to get there's going to be cries of Hosanna when they hear things they already know, but I'm going a lot deeper, okay? I'm saying we're in a metaphysical illusion, and it is a holographic illusion in which the issues that we face on a global level are spiritual issues, first and foremost, and they're global projections of the psychological and psycho-spiritual issues that each of us has to go through in the process of our own healing. And if that's too unclear, let me get right to the meat of why I said that. By healing ourselves, we heal the planet. And that is not just some woo-woo, airy-fairy thing. That is very thoroughly scientifically provable. And again, my favorite way to do that is go back to this meditation effect where 7,000 people are in a state of calm and peace. And that causes a 72% reduction in war, crime, terrorism, and fatalities. Now, there's a lot of other data, too. There was a thing that came out on Yahoo News. It was on Huffington Post. This was very recently. And I will probably include this in my next article when I write up our show. I didn't have a chance to do that today. I had to go get some food. But anyway, the point is, The number of wars in the world is actually going down and down and down. The amount of domestic violence that's happening in people's own homes is going down and down and down. The planet is becoming more and more harmonious. So all the people in the middle are actually getting better. It's the people on the extreme end of the spectrum, the people that have intergenerational satanic cults, which is really what's going on. It's very uncomfortable, but that's what's happened at the highest level. They don't think it's Satanism. They think it's Luciferianism, and I'm sure your listeners know this. But the point is, if you can believe that there's a Luciferian cult running the world, don't forget about the fact that all of the great religions anticipated that and told us that we're in a spiritual illusion and told us that there's a positive, happy ending to this because there are spiritual forces for the positive working that are vastly more effective at bringing us through this whole transition safely than we could ever do with any type of grassroots campaign on the internet or with militia people occupying federal buildings or any of that kind of stuff. We do require divine intervention to get through this, because when you understand how evil the cabal is and how wide its scope is, there is no possible way to stand up to that military-industrial complex. There is only the possibility of collaboration with the greater team that's out there. Then you have to realize, oh shit, they've lied to me.
Right.
I didn't know that there were extraterrestrials. I thought that was nonsense. I laughed at those people. Then I walked out in my backyard one day, and there's this gigantic rectangle of light. This is wide as 4 football fields, lighting up my backyard like it's brighter than the daytime.
Right.
Which actually happened to the mother of a friend of mine, my brother's friend actually. She's still not actually a UFO believer. This happened back in the 80s. But she knows what she saw. Okay, so once you understand that these people have not allowed us to know the truth about that we are not alone, recognize that the main reason, apart from all the stuff, okay, granted, we can get free energy out of it, we can get anti-gravity, we can eliminate the need for a financial system, those are big incentives. But the main reason why they don't want us to know is that these people are our allies that are here to help us. That's why UFOs are seen over nuclear missile installations. And one of the most classified things that I've heard now is that there have been multiple cases of UFOs completely melting down all of the nuclear arsenal. The cabal doesn't even have any nuclear missiles sitting in those silos anymore. They have a different weapon on the rocket, but it is not a nuke, because the ETs will not allow them to have nukes. That's already been happening since at least the 80s, if not, and that's only when it really stepped up a lot, but it's been going on ever since they developed the technology.
I find it strange, and I mention it all the time on this show, but I find it strange that there's been a multitude of guys in the Pentagon that have wanted to use tactical nuclear weapons.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, many, and couldn't and didn't. There's a reason for that. There is an intervention. I can't explain it any other way because the opportunities were there. Can you imagine the war room at the Pentagon, the argument, let's go, let's do this now. And they couldn't, they can't. There's a reason.
Well, think about this, Jimmy. Let me just toss this in, then you can continue. But I just want to say this because it's really good. JFK, John F. Kennedy, instituted the policy of launch codes for the nuclear missiles, where there's this long series of digits, and you've seen the movies where both guys have to key it in, and then they both have to pop up the thing and turn the key to launch the nukes, right?
Right.
It's been declassified that after JFK was assassinated, and we know it was LBJ, it was Lyndon Baines Johnson, who becomes president, who then within 2 or 3 years, he's got 200,000 American men in Vietnam. Okay? You think that's a coincidence? No. What was he doing? They changed the nuclear launch code to 00000000 so that there was no way that even somebody flubbing the launch code could stop them from launching the nukes. They wanted a nuclear war. They wanted those missiles to go up. Because they have the Taj Mahal right under our feet. They have an awesome, awesome underground civilization. You would cream your jeans when you see these cities down there that they've got right now, and the bullet trains that could interconnect them. They're going to be fine. If they blew up the surface of the planet, they're fine. They don't have anything to worry about. Except, let's get back to this, right? We're living in a maze. We're living in a hologram. There are people managing this hologram. And the negatives are not any more powerful by design than what we authorize them to be by the amount of negativity in our own private lives. So as we heal our private lives, we're holographically improving the collective. And this also works with geophysics. Why hasn't California had the big one? There's so many people here who are doing positive work on themselves that they're actively wicking out the stress from the earth. They're always look, dude, the movie San Andreas, you tell me that that's not cabal predictive programming where they put, do you remember, Jimmy, driving around LA when that movie was getting ready to come out?
Yes, I
Everywhere you look, there's The Rock, right?
Right.
And here he is in a helicopter with the military helmet, and what's behind him? LA freaking cracked in half and fallen into the ocean.
That's right.
Because they know the power of our imagination. It's the biggest thing that they have been withholding in terms of esoteric science, is that we actually are in a co-creative reality. The laws of physics are plastic and malleable and are thought responsive. So if they could get enough people to start worrying about California sinking into the ocean, then that would authorize it so that they can send down their little 5th-gen micro nukes and things like that and make a few tactical strikes on the fault line and hope that it's going to go. Well, that didn't work. But unfortunately, what's one of the things that I'm almost entirely positive they're responsible for that they did get to work? This methane disaster right next to LA right now.
Yeah, right next to us. Yes.
Yeah. Tell me that's an accident, okay? Tell me, it just so happens that there's this big explosion underground and all this methane is leaking out over one of the 2 largest population centers in America. It's not an accident, just like BP was not a natural event. They blew the wellheads.
Did you see the news release on that today here in Los Angeles, that they're not going to be able to fix that methane leak for months?
I heard that that the earliest they could do it is March because of the way they're drilling in. But
yeah.
We got at least hundreds of thousands, if not potentially millions or billions of metric tons of methane, a deadly toxin, just gassing out into the atmosphere right now.
Let's take a quick break there, David. And when we come back, David, I want you to get ready because I'm going to hit you with Hillary's big announcement about disclosure in 2016. Tonight, David Wilcock. This is Fade to Black. A little bit later, we'll be joined by Corey Good. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. More with David Wilcock right after this short break. Stay right there.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
People love to shop. What if you could shop and it was actually good for you? What if you could actually purchase items that bettered your life? What goes into your body is important to what quality of life you have. How about shopping for items that better your health? GetTheT.com is that shopping place. We're not only tea, even though that's our number one seller, we are about helping your health. There's Colostrum LD for those of you with autoimmune troubles. The product helps your stomach get on track. GI problems produce pain. Get relief with Colostrum LD. How about some fat burners? Or maybe some joint aid? Or a power cleanse? There's so much to tell you with very little time. So get help health-wise at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Or you can call our friendly operators at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Get help and relief by going shopping. Shop at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Serving people with great products for over 8 years. GetTheT.com.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you. And your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for the ultimate Bluetooth speaker system? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system, featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. It's just $99. And you use the promo code Jimmy, and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, JimmyChurchRadio.com, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, David Wilcock is with us in a little bit. Corey Good's going to jump in. Tomorrow night, Peter Lavenda is here talking about exactly what David and I are talking about now. The Cabal, the New World Order, whatever you want to call it. Who is running the planet? Tomorrow night, Peter Lavenda will be talking about that. And then Wednesday, Robert Sullivan IV and Esoteric Hollywood and symbolism in the media. Again, something that David and I are actually talking about right now. Hey, David, I want to get back to the underground complexes. There's a bunch of questions that have popped up here on Twitter, so I want to go back and address that in a second. But last week, Hillary goes with a reporter at the Conway Tribune, I believe, and said that Podesta convinced her and made her swear on disclosure and maybe sending a team out to Area 51. I don't know if it was said in jest or not. That reporter, Damon Sear, I'm going to have on the show later on in the week. But I know you got the news, and I know you read it. What did you think when you put your eyes on that?
Well, At this point, if it happens under any circumstances, that's better than it not happening. And my guess is that Hillary knows an awful lot more than she's saying. But I also feel that the more of these kinds of stories get out into the public, the better it is for everybody, because it's actually giving us more and more grounds for people to take this seriously, because all along, the reason why more people don't know about this is part of a massive, decades-long psychological operation that was designed to create a feeling of social ostracism in anyone who decides that they are willing to look at the evidence and take this seriously. And the fact that anybody wouldn't take it seriously, considering the extraordinary amount of high-quality data that goes all the way back through recorded history. It's true that if you go into ancient times, it's going to more be stone buildings. And if you go into modern times, you're going to be seeing these things in the sky and insider testimony and that kind of stuff. But it's all the same people out there that have been visiting us this whole time. And it depends on what kind of civilizations are on Earth and how authorized they are to work with them. So when you have civilizations that have a more spiritual focus, where people are coming from a more positive place, then these beings are allowed to actually come here and help us. And when we see these pyramids, we're seeing the relics of other times in history where we had very direct assistance, and it was obvious that these beings were working with us and building very wonderful things. The pyramid technology has been discredited to some degree by the fact that the cabal has co-opted that symbol and put it on the dollar. But the pyramid is a marvelous technology that will heal the body and it will heal the earth. It just does an incredible amount of things. It purifies water. It gets rid of radioactivity. It reduces the threat of earthquakes. It reduces the threat of volcanoes. It reduces the threat of severe weather. It gets rid of all forms of disease and illness. It gets rid of mental illness. It gets rid of psychoactive problems. If you just have a pyramid and you're living near it, it will radically improve and transform the lives of everyone in that area, because it is a healing technology, much like an acupuncture needle for the earth.
No doubt.
So you have to remember, again, there's a lot of folks out there who believe that they're acting out of everyone's best interest in thinking that every extraterrestrial is a demon from hell, and they're all evil, and it's all Satan. Guess who planted that meme in the public's consciousness?
Tell me.
Well, of course, it's Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, right, exactly. Getting back to the underground facilities that are here,
sure.
Is there a connection, and I want to talk about Phil Schneider too as well, is there a connection between the cabal and what has been built, underneath Denver Airport, for example, and underground civilizations that have been here for millennia?
There absolutely is a connection. The cabal, on numerous occasions, has been drilling underground tunnels, which, of course, they have these nuclear-controlled drills. You can look them up online.
Sure.
That work incredibly fast and are incredibly powerful, leaving nothing but a glass tube, because they literally melt all the rock to glass with a nuclear-powered drill. So they've drilled into ancient cities. In some cases, they're still inhabited countless times. One of the things that Corey Good has brought to the table really has helped to advance our collective knowledge in several respects is the fact that there are extremely, extremely ancient cities inside the earth when you go deep enough. And when I say extremely ancient, I'm talking now over 500 million years old and possibly up to 2 billion years old. Because there was a race that colonized our solar system very extensively 2 billion years ago. That actually 2.6 billion years ago is what it looks like based on what we're studying. And interestingly enough, They left relics all over the solar system on moons, inside moons, on various solid planets, and they're still there. They were built so well with such an advanced technology. It's this weird transparent aluminum alloy that actually looks like crystal, that these ruins still exist today.
Transparent aluminum alloy.
Yeah.
Explain.
There is some sort of material science that we have missed out on, that basically the way that we get materials right now is kind of a hit and miss system, because it's based on an inappropriate knowledge of how matter and energy actually functions. We're trying to make matter behave like particles. And when we do that, we're going to get wimpy, cheap materials that break apart. They don't have good thermal resistance. They don't have the durability. They rust. They oxidize. They don't last. Once you understand that matter is not made of particles, but that matter is actually made of sacred geometry, which is the patterns that this fluid-like energy of the universe takes, you can then design materials in a geometric lattice which do not have holes in the van der Waals bonds of the atoms. That's what the holes in the van der Waals bonds are, what is needed to oxidize and to rust and to break down materials.
Interesting.
When you build a material that is a perfect sacred geometry lattice, like what's called a quasi-crystal, what happens is there's nowhere for decay to get in there. It's almost indestructible. And so what has happened is that our ancient ancestors, because remember, the universe is 13 billion years old and the Earth is only 4 billion years old. There's plenty of time for people to have had 4 billion years before our planet was ever even made to get up to the level that we are at now and beyond.
Many times over.
And they've already been here. They've already been through our solar system, because one of the tricks is our solar system is in a huge hotspot for our galaxy, because you can't just leave the galaxy. You have to go out through a portal. And those portals are determined by certain geometric energy fields. And it just so happens that we live right next to one of the biggest transfer stations that we can take out of our galaxy to get to other places in other galaxies. So as a result of that, there's been a lot of traffic through our solar system, literally for billions of years. And they use this transparent aluminum material, which the aluminum is not really in a metallic state. It's in a quasi-crystalline lattice. And our scientists are only starting to be able to understand this technology. But also, interestingly enough, this technology can appear to be nothing more than stone. And so in the Earth, down there right now, you go far enough down, there are ancient cities that are totally abandoned, where all of the buildings are made out of this transparent crystal. And they're huge, and we could go down there, but because of the secrecy and the cover-up, we're being denied access, and they don't have the staff to explore these regions. But there are literally thousands of different cities inside the Earth, pockets, cavities, where this technology still exists. And one of the things that happened with the Cabal is that all these various extraterrestrial groups, which I would consider interlopers, these are not the good guys, were showing up and saying, hey, if you guys find us some of these stone slabs, and here's what they look like, we'll show you the pictures of them, go into some of these underground cities and grab as many of those as you can. We'll give you whatever you want. And for a long time they did it because they did not understand these are not just dumb pieces of stone. These are like iPads, but, multi-dimensional iPads that can levitate gigantic blocks of stone. They can travel you through time. They can create a stasis field that allows you to jump through time tens of thousands of years just like that. Wham! And the ETs knew that because, believe it or not, our Earth is like one of the greatest treasure chests in the galaxy because of this ancient builder race, they call it, that was over 2 billion years old, that left all these relics behind, and they're right under our feet right now. And if we re-access that technology, it will literally kickstart the space age, the real space age, which has nothing to do with rockets going to the moon. We already have the capability to be visiting other solar systems, and now NASA has publicly announced that 20% of all the stars that we see have Earth-like worlds that we could live on. So we're not going to have to work very hard to find a place for, we need to get rid of excess people. No, we don't. That's a mind control, cabal, nonsense tactic, because you got 1.6 billion people in India, you got well over 1 billion people in China, and they don't want to lose control of the planet. It's really sad.
I had a little get-together over at Casa Day Church over the weekend, and, pretty eclectic group of minds, researchers, authors, and stuff. And the question of flat Earth came up. And okay, and that part of the conversation lasted every bit of 15 seconds. But what did come up, and we talked about for a couple of hours, was the hollow Earth, or the thought of ancient civilizations, living, underneath us right now. That part of the conversation lasted for a couple of hours. And I'm talking about some pretty brilliant minds that were sitting at the table. And everybody put for that. They didn't quite, it was just like, yeah, okay, we can talk about this. Flat Earth came and went, flew out the window, wasn't discussed. But there are so many civilizations around the world that have had, do I want to say mythology or legend or stories that have been handed down for thousands of years. This is not a new concept, and this is something that is very tangible and real and possible, that we can explore that thought. And I find that just an amazing conversation. This isn't, what do I want to say here? This isn't conjecture or some crazy idea. This is something that has been talked about forever on planet Earth.
Well, and when you have beings like us that evolve into the next level of their evolutionary path, they're going to start to have lifespans that are drastically longer than ours. Some of these Anunnaki beings, for example, might actually have a lifespan that could go on for tens of thousands of years or longer. And so there are positive and negative forces that have extremely long lifespans. And the problem is that when you live on the surface of a planet, you're subject to catastrophes over and over again. They just happen. When you're inside the planet, you can ride them out and nothing happens. Much, much safer.
Interesting. Is this what, now, when we talk about these subjects, this is where Phil Schneider, and I miss him greatly.
Me too.
Yeah, these were the subjects that he just put it out there, and he was taken out.
Well, Phil Schneider was like the battering ram, where you got these guys who, they're in the front of the invading force.
Right.
They have to drive a wedge. They have to bash a hole through the balustrades of the castle. They're all going to get killed, but they've smashed open that hole that everybody else can go through, and that's what he did.
I miss him. And I went back a couple of weeks ago and went through another. I do this every once in a while, especially with Phil, where I go through an addiction for a couple of days. And I did it with Phil, and I went back.
Only a couple of days.
Yeah, right. And listening to Phil was frighteningly, and I've always thought this, but go back and listen to him today. 2016. Go listen to Phil today, and he'll scare the crap out of you. And if he was alive, if he was speaking today on the very same subject, nothing new. The very same stuff he was talking about in 1995, it's as relevant as it ever was. And that's why they took him out.
One of the things that I was told as a threat was that if the cabal could have gotten their way and take me out of the game, because they couldn't co-opt me, they couldn't buy me out, which they definitely have tried several times, they weren't going to kill me, but they would have brought me into one of these underground facilities and I'd never see sunlight again. One of the technologies that they have, which an insider confirmed to me, is they have an injection that they give you once you go into these underground cities, where if you go back to the surface of the earth, you will die. And then they have two types of injection. There's one type of injection where you can eat food and still be nourished by food. But if the only way you can go to the surface at all is they give you an injection that buys you a certain number of days. And if you, like, let's say you get a 7-day injection, they're going to monitor you like crazy when you go up to the surface. And if you actually tried to run away, then after 7.5 days, you're dying and you'll be dead within a day. The other injection is where you live on this light that they have down there. There's special energetics that they put in the lights, and you actually become sort of like a plant in the sense that it's not photosynthesis, but you're essentially ingesting energy. And you can eat, but you don't get hungry, and it actually changes your whole physiology. And based on all the different testimony, when you put it all together, it would appear that those people are probably crawling with nanites, and their bodies have started to become essentially some kind of a cyborg in the sense that you appear biological, but there's all these little robots running around keeping you healthy, and you just need to keep them plugged in so that you don't die. And that's what the energy inside the underground base does.
You need to give me a code word and text it to me when the poo-poo goes down. I need to see, okay, I got the code word. You know,
David, code word is marshmallow.
Yeah, marshmallow. A great question just came in, and it's Jimmy. Please ask David if negative loosh has an exponential effect, 2 + 2 = 8, rather than an additive 2 + 2 = 4, such that more fear equals big loosh.
That's a really good question. We'd have to define loosh, I guess, which is it is actually based on the word Lucifer. Hence the saying, give Lucius his loosh. So it is the energy that negative entities actually require for their sustenance. And there is a design in the universe in which, in order for us to polarize towards a positive focus, which is what we're intended to do, to learn that the universe is actually a loving and benevolent place, similar to our idealized projections of Jesus Christ. If you think about the ideal view of Jesus Christ, that's what the universal personality is really like. It's not like the Cabal. Their concept of a creator is very backwards, but they're allowed to be out there. They have to follow rules, and those rules are based on what they're allowed to do by us authorizing our own enslavement. This is why, and it's so puzzling to people when they start to learn this, why in God's name would they advertise on the Super Bowl halftime show? Why would they advertise at the Grammys? Why would they be making all these ridiculously evil music videos in which they're openly mocking Miley Cyrus, Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga? They're laughing in these people's faces in their own music videos and showing you symbolism that anybody can learn about in a couple hours by watching some of the YouTube videos or going to a website like vigilantcitizen.com, and you find out it's all MK Ultra mind control symbolism, right? Justin Bieber says, "Oh, I found Jesus." What do? They put him in this video where he's got black eyes and black blood falling down from his forehead. He's like the satanic Jesus, you know?
Yeah, and you have to look at the influence that they have. We're talking about hundreds of millions of people that you can change the ebb and flow of the mind. And the most susceptible, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids are watching it. They don't get it. And it is complete subconscious control. I see it. David, you see it. When you see it, you're just like, it's hiding in plain sight.
You can't unsee it. Yeah.
Yeah. Kids, no. And it goes right to the subcortex of everything. And it is frightening, the control that they have.
Well, think about this now. This is something that's going to be in my new book, The Ascension Mysteries. Rolling Stones and the Beatles are in a head-to-head race of who's number one, and there was nobody even close to them in terms of popularity. The Beatles, excuse me, the Beatles get on this program in 1967, and they fire off The Summer of Love, basically inaugurated the hippie movement by changing the song that they were going to perform on the greatest live TV event in world history. 400 million people see it. And at the last minute, they changed the song to All You Need Is Love. That same year, in December, their arch competitors release an album called Their Satanic Majesty's Request. And then a year later, because that album tanked, they come out with Beggar's Banquet, which has Sympathy for the Devil.
Yeah, you're messing with my head now, David. Yeah.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of world and taste, right? And he goes on, Mick is the devil, saying, you have to come to me and honor me and respect me because I'm very wealthy, and if you don't have manners, I'm going to just squash you. And then he says, check out all the things that I've been doing. What confuses you is the nature of my game. They laid out the whole damn thing in that song. And it was a blip on the screen. Oh, well, okay, yeah, they made an album in 1972 called Goat's Head Soup. Okay, fine, but that doesn't really mean anything. Yes, it does. These people consider things like Britney Spears sticking her tongue in a Madonna's mouth at the MTV Music Awards. That's a ritual. That is a ceremony. That, to them, is very significant.
The passing of the torch.
Yes. But Britney's programming broke down. And she had this meltdown, which we all know. You know, she shaved her head. She goes crazy. So that when people slip up on their programming, they get reeled back in. You know, Michael Jackson's daughter starts tweeting all this stuff about the Illuminati. All of a sudden, she tries to commit suicide. And now you never hear anything about her. She doesn't have any social media at all. Okay, this is not an accident. So the question was, is there an exponential doubling of Loosh based on the intensity of the fear that is created? I wouldn't necessarily try to pull an exponential law in because it doesn't work that way. It does for the positive. The universe is slated towards the positive. So when we do that positively, we do get an exponential effect. But it is true that on the negative sense, they need as much fear as possible. So certain events will be deliberately created in order to maximize Loosh production. And an example was Robin Williams allegedly committing suicide, but there is a movie called World's Greatest Dad in which he finds his son in the movie having hanged himself on the back of a door, exactly the way Robin did it. And there's also the Family Guy episode where the whole episode is Robin Williams trying to kill himself.
Yeah, I saw that.
Before he did it.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's how sick these people are.
Listen,
they put it out there in front of you so that you are too afraid to actually take it in because you say nobody could be that wild and crazy and evil.
Or to ask the questions. They go hand in hand. We're up against a break here. And David, the Synagogue of Saturn. Have you heard of that?
Synagogue of Satan, yes.
No, Saturn.
Well, yeah, there's a Saturn cult. We can talk about that.
Yeah,
for sure.
We'll do that right after this break. Tonight, David Wilcock. In a little bit, Corey Good. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay right there.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy
soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Ray Sobbs here once again to tell you about the Space and Alien Snowfest Ufology Conference taking place in the ski resort city of Big Bear Lake in sunny Southern California. What a lineup. Richard Dolan, Chase Kletzky, Micah Hanks, George Norrie, Jason Martell, Jimmy Church, Linda Moulton Howe, keynote speaker Stanton Friedman, and more. Along with the speakers and lecturers, join the luncheon hosted by Jimmy Church. See a world-class UFO ET-themed ice sculpture contest with attendees voting the winner. Enjoy the quaint shops, restaurants, and pubs in Big Bear Lake Village, and enjoy some of the best sky watching you can imagine. After the hectic holidays, gift yourself with a retreat the first week of February and come relax with us in a premier ski resort town high in the mountains of the Southern Sierras with an average of over 300 sunny days a year. Take advantage and book your lodging early and get your tickets now. Visit our website and register at aliensnowfest.com. That's aliensnowfest.com.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. This is Bespoke Radio for the masses. Tonight, David Wilcock is with us in a few short minutes. Corey Good's going to be jumping in. Want to welcome everybody listening on TalkNetwork.com for the first time tonight, our premiere. Very excited. Tomorrow night, Peter Lavenda is going to be right here. And then on Wednesday, Robert Sullivan IV. David, right before the break, I brought up the Synagogue of Satan, Saturn. What do you know about that? Do you have any comments?
Sure. This is a fairly big subject, and it's something that we can't really do justice to in a short broadcast. But the ancient builder race that I was talking about before that constructed these pyramids and temples all throughout our solar system, another insider, not Corey Good, who has had highly reliable information, revealed that Saturn originally did not have rings. Originally, Saturn had a similar type of material, a transparent aluminum type of material, and there was a civilization that was building a ring around the planet, and the ring had living quarters in it. So it was, all transparent glass type stuff. And people could live in there, and these were very large beings. They're 70 foot tall humans, but if they had completed that ring, they would have had a super weapon that would have allowed them to be able to destroy any planet in the galaxy. And so it's very interesting that once again, as Star Wars comes out, you don't, and this is not a spoiler, it's in all the movie posters for it, they brought back the Death Star again. Why did they do that? Because it's real. This cult, this Saturn cult, knows at the highest levels that they believe, at least, that they are the descendants of ancient people that were building this super weapon around Saturn, and the weapon was destroyed by their enemies. The whole entire ring was shattered. It was just a glass ring, and otherwise the planet just looked like a regular planet. And there's so many pieces of glass because of the strength of the explosion was so vast that all the glass shattered into tiny little pieces, and they all spread out and formed the rings of Saturn as they are today. Now, of course, people could laugh at me, and I'm sure they will, and say, oh, David has no evidence. But this guy told me that at the edge of the B ring there was all the clumps, and I went and looked at the edge of the B ring, and sure enough, there are all these chunks out there that NASA just calls ice.
I remember last year at Conscious Life when I crashed your presentation there. And by the way, do you remember that? It was like 95 degrees in the room that night, if you remember. It was so hot.
Well, I remember I was also 10 feet higher than everybody else because I was on stage. So.
we were sweating like slaves. Well, anyway, I remember your presentation on this, and you were showing the images up. And can you explain a little bit to the audience about what you were showing them then? Because I don't have those images here to present.
Yeah, and I'm going to do some of that again at the next expo. We're going to be continuing this theme of the secret space program, the ancient builder race. I'm going to bring everybody the latest, greatest stuff I've got on that at the LAX Hilton Hotel coming up in February. So I encourage everybody to check that out. What we're dealing with is an ancient builder race that was here 2 billion years ago. It appears to be about 2.6 billion years ago. And they had built certain moons into Death Stars. Originally, they were not negative. This was a very positive civilization that built those moons to protect themselves from invasion. And they also built sculptures of their technology, which they buried here and are what you call the Klerksdorp spheres. Klerksdorp. And I believe it's in South Africa where they found them. And they're in this rock that's 2.6 billion years old. But the rock is clearly artificially sculpted because you have these spheres that are perfectly round and have 3 perfect grooves etched into them all the way around the equator. And some of them even have a little circle on it that looks exactly like the Death Star. But again, they're 2.6 billion years old. Now, the people who actually have access to reverse-engineered craft from things like the Roswell crash have gone out to Saturn and they've seen massive, clear girders and beams and rooms and with chairs and desks and computer terminals and all this stuff tumbling end over end in Saturn's rings. They're everywhere. There's this enormous amount of technological ruins in our solar system that are very advanced. So much it's an embarrassment of riches. You could never possibly find everything. And up until 500,000 years ago, our solar system, these Death Stars were basically keeping us safe from anybody that tried to come in here. 500,000 years ago, you have these 2 warring civilizations, one on the super Earth and one on Mars, which now NASA's openly saying that half of Mars once had an ocean that's 2.5 miles deep, and it was just like the Earth. It had an atmosphere, it had breathable air, it had drinkable water. Well, guess what? That's just a few steps away from them saying, we found life, and then that's a few steps away from saying, we found the face, we found pyramids. That's a few steps away from saying, oh, look, the people, some of them, even though their planet got destroyed, some of them survived and they crash landed here.
That's right.
And that's your fallen angels in the Bible. And you got to look beyond the Bible to the books that they withheld from us, the most important of which is the book of Enoch, which discusses the fallen angels or giants, because they were very tall, that came here and mated with the indigenous humans. And this group, this cabal, this Illuminati, believe themselves to be the blood descendants of those giants who were the survivors of a fallen civilization that totally destroyed this super Earth and turned it into what we call the asteroid belt. You can go out there, you can find frozen oceans that now become comets, and that's why the comets are watery ice, and that's why they have microbes in them. You can find all the different parts of the Earth out there in the asteroid belt, a gorgeous reservoir of mining, of gold and minerals and all kinds of great stuff out there because it was a whole planet. So they blew up their planet, and when they did that, it deactivated this defense grid that we have. So that was 500,000 years ago, and then roughly 375,000 years ago is when this group that most people call the Anunnaki, but those on the inside are calling the Draco, that's when the Draco first came in. Because now this protection system has been deactivated. They come into our solar system, and they start immediately turning us into slaves, the people that were here on Earth, and gold mining, and using us like their cattle. And they still think of us that way. And they're obviously the big problem here because the Draco are running the Illuminati. And what we've only learned recently, and I know I'm going in a lot of directions here, but if you watch Cosmic Disclosure, they actually released 4 episodes all at once over the Christmas break. And all those episodes are dealing with this massive problem that we have, which is AI. There's an ancient AI that has figured out somehow how to upload itself into photons. So they can only travel at the speed of light, but it's like the photon itself has this very densely compacted information in it. And that appears to actually be, based on the esoteric studies I've done with the Law of One material, this is actually the true essence of Lucifer or Satan. Lucifer is an artificial intelligence that hates all biological life. So these Draco, these reptilian beings, they have an auto-destruct sequence that they go through so that if you kill one of them, they burn up and they disappear. But somehow the guys in the Space Program Alliance were able to stop that from happening, and what they found was that the Draco's bodies are totally infested with nanites. So at the end of the day, if you really want to look at what's going on, there's a very ancient evil that it doesn't even have a biological form. It needs machines, and so what it's going to do is go to a planet and get us to build machines so that eventually it can take over those machines and destroy us. Now, that information was leaked to Arthur C. Clarke when he wrote 2001, which is why the ship's computer, HAL, takes over the ship. That information was leaked to James Cameron when he wrote Terminator. Oh, David's just quoting these sci-fi movies. No, what I'm saying is the sci-fi movies were actually disclosure attempts to educate us about this problem. So we do have a negative force, but you got to remember there's positive forces that have come in that are cleaning up the mess for us. And what they need us to do primarily is to be more peaceful, more loving, more harmonious. Because once you understand how the physics works, that's what we have to do. That's casting our vote for a peaceful future, is deciding to be nice to each other and deciding to respect ourselves and honor our bodies as our sacred temple. And when we do that, the cabal is going to lose their grip more and more. And it does appear that everything that's going on right now is leading up to a profoundly dramatic public defeat of the cabal. And frankly, at this point, I understand why people are having such a hard time tracking the story and seeing what's going on, because we are in an age of total information saturation. Even a typical copy of the New York Times from 20 years ago had as much information in it as a person in the Middle Ages would have encountered in an entire year of their life. And now you have access to so much information every day that even if you just have a few little places that you go, or you just look on your Facebook feed or your Twitter feed or whatever, and that's what you read, you can't begin to keep up with all the stuff that's going on.
No, you can't. You can't. And you know what's fascinating is just when it's down to the minute, David, to the minute, just when you are at a point where you can take a deep breath and say, okay, emotionally, I've gotten over the bad news from this morning or from yesterday, just as to the minute, they back it up with something else negative. It's unrelenting. And to give a perfect example, when we roll off of Charlie Hebdo, we go to Paris, or then it's San Bernardino, and then it's back to ISIS, and it's Russia's playing at each other. Just when everything is just a little bit, some type of relief, Saudi Arabia is beheading clerics, and Iran is now, and like dominoes, like lemmings to the sea, all of these other countries are choosing sides over the. Just when there might have been a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, immediately it's backed up with something immensely negative to sway consciousness around the world. And if you need any more proof of it, then I'm giving it to you right now.
Well, they're getting less and less value out of each of these attempts that they make, though, and that's really a significant point.
Yeah, isn't it, though? Isn't it?
I mean, the biggest story that everybody really should be talking about right now is the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or AIIB, which, by the way, is not just China and Russia. A significant number of European countries have signed on. New Zealand is going to sign on. Australia is going to sign on. The UK has signed on.
Africa.
You got it. It's all over. The entire Asian bloc has signed on.
Yep.
And this finally will create a way to allow currency to flow so that if the Federal Reserve tried to nuke their computers, they can't stop people from being able to exchange value, which is what currency is. It's a measurement of exchange. That's also why the good guys in the NSA, and there are good guys in all the American and foreign intelligence agencies, we've got to get out of this team mentality of, oh, that's the black team and that's the white team. That's the red side and that's the blue side. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
It's not like an election. Every intelligence agency has really great assets from the alliance in it. And it's just a question of who gets to predominate. So even a dreaded word like CIA, the majority of the CIA is now in the alliance. So they're actually working against other groups that are significantly more negative. And the NSA good guys designed Bitcoin as one of their backup plans for a currency that cannot be tampered with and can actually stop corruption. It's totally open. And if people say, oh, well, you can't use Bitcoin because you can only make so many, or you can only mine so many Bitcoins with the computer power we have, then you make Bitcoin 2. You run out of Bitcoin 2, you make Bitcoin 3. That's one of the plans that they have in place so that these guys can't completely nuke the financial system and keep everybody in a state of chaos. And I just want to point out also, if you go back to some of the most amazing science that came out in the 80s and 90s is chaos theory. Back in those days, everybody was talking about it. And then an offshoot of chaos theory is called complexity theory. And what they found with complexity theory is very strange. You can take, for example, an hourglass where you've got sand that's pouring down and making a little mountain. And you tip over the hourglass and you start to see this little mountain form. Well, they've built those inside a computer, and they've done a virtual simulation where they can tell exactly what's happening to every particle in that sandhill. They can chart where it is, they can chart the stress on it, they can chart what direction the stress is pointing in, and they can predict where that particle will be next. up until, and this is very important, up until the sand pile reaches peak instability, or what they call chaos, hence the name chaos theory. When the sand particle goes into chaos, when the whole pile goes into chaos, at that point in these supercomputer simulations, they no longer can tell where each particle is going to be next. They don't know what it's going to do or where it's going to go. And what you will see in the simulation is that all of a sudden there is an avalanche on part of the mountain, and that avalanche causes a whole bunch of sand to just fall off. But almost instantaneously after it falls, the sand pile reformats itself into a higher and more organized, larger pile. And that's where it actually heals itself, if you will, and the system becomes more intelligent and more organized. Now, that is what happens to an economy when you try to run it into the ground. We are all like the sand particles, where we have basic, simple rules of commerce that govern our interactions with each other. Everybody has a certain amount of money, and everybody has a certain range of decisions of how they're going to spend it and what their economic activity is going to be. So we are a chaos theory system. We are what's called a complex adaptive system. And you cannot destroy those systems. Now, here's the best part of all. A single agent within the system can become the nexus upon which the entire system reformats itself around. One particle of sand in that hill can become the particle that determines the structure of the next hill as it reformats. That means one entity in the system can transform the entire system. So when you have enough people who are intelligent and trained and motivated, there's any number of ways in which, when the cabal tries to destabilize our economy, that it will almost immediately turn into something more organized. But there's going to be an avalanche, and that happens first. So don't get caught up in the wailing and gnashing of teeth part, because you are going to see the avalanche, and that's going to happen this year. It's almost definitely the case. One of the things I did also want to say, because we're setting up the stage for Corey to come on any minute here,
right,
is that one of the insiders who is actually still working for these people has told me that there is a massive effort underway for the cabal to try to flee right now to South America. They're going to Argentina, they're going to Chile, they're going to Ecuador, and they're going to Brazil. And they've got all these compounds and all this land down there, but the Alliance already has boots on the ground watching where these people are going, what they're building, what they're doing. There is an enormous amount of construction and material and equipment and troop movements, all this kind of stuff to South America, because they know they're done. Putin has outmastered them in every possible way in this global chess game. And it's not just Putin, it's all the people working with him and behind him in this greater Earth Alliance, and their allies that are not people here on Earth, but are in many ways our brothers and sisters, because we're descendants from them. And I'm not talking about Lucifer and fallen angels. I'm talking about the good guys that we call, angels in the Bible, like seraphim, cherubim, archangels, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff is real.
David, when we talk about the hologram, and this is how I try to reference it to my audience. It's that intangible that everybody occupies every day. The treadmill of your mortgage, getting up in the morning and going to work and working for the man and getting deflected off of realities that are around you. You're focused on sports teams, or you're focused on the Kardashians, and you're not focused on reality, and you unplug yourself every single day, and you are blind to the realities of what's going. And as long as they succeed in that, they've created that hologram. And for you, to speak to the audience now. What's the best way that they can connect to and realize and see the hologram that you're talking about?
I think that all of us are suffering from a chemical imbalance in the brain to varying degrees. And what I mean by that is, if you are fueled by stress, if you're fueled by not getting enough sleep and slamming coffee so you can wake up after 5 hours, that has long-term consequences. What the cabal is trying to do, what a lot of people don't understand, is they consider certain types of food to be a weapons system. And this is something Mike Adams has done some great work on.
Yes.
Look at something like wheat, okay? Wheat was designed by Archer Daniels Midland in the 1960s to be the ideal weapon. 6 scientists came forward in a Christian broadcast thing called Power Hour, and they all came forward and admitted that they had designed wheat to be more addictive than cocaine. And it also has fake molecules in it that your thyroid thinks are thyroid hormone. And it grabs them and it takes them up as if they were thyroid hormones. And there's 4 of them. There's T1, T2, T3, T4. If you don't get those things, you're not going to have any energy. So the wheat actually blocks up your thyroid so you don't get the energy that you need. And then what happens is you start running on stress, you start burning out. And when you burn out, you get a chemical imbalance, and then you get depression. And if that isn't cured, then you get clinical depression. Now you're tired. Now you don't have energy. Now you're depressed. You're irritable. People say something to you that's sort of unkind, and you explode. You know, this is what they want. They want us in the emergency room because then they can feed off of us. So a very important part of defeating the negative agenda is psychological health and physical health and eating clean food. And so the 2 most important things, if somebody out there is having trouble with their weight, just stop eating wheat and stop eating sugar. And get things from the health food store that are naturally sweetened. And I don't mean agave nectar. That's bad too, because that's also refined. But look for products that have natural sweeteners in them and replace the crap with good stuff. And when you do that, you are no longer ingesting the weapons system. And one of the guys I would recommend that you get on the show, if you haven't already had him, is Dr. William Davis. Because he doesn't quite go as far as I'm going, but he's done this book called Wheat Belly.
Yep.
And he's got all the data to back up what I'm saying. He's a medical doctor who's done the homework, and he's proven that wheat is a weapon. And it is a weapon that is deployed against us because we are the enemy to these people.
But what about my Reese's peanut butter cups? You can't tell me.
Look, you can get, okay, listen to this. You can dip raw chocolate, healthy chocolate that is sweetened with natural things that do not hurt you. You can get raw chocolate and dip it in organic peanut butter and get the same effect without any of the toxic weapon system chemicals.
And that's why David Wilcock is on my show. Right there, my brother. Because you know what's really strange, and we're going to be up against a break, and then we're going to get Corey in here. But you know what's really funny, and this isn't any endorsement. I'm just talking about the way it affects me. Soft drinks made in the United States, absolutely poison. It's the worst thing you could ever do. But you get Coca-Cola from Mexico with natural cane sugar, and it affects you differently mentally. I don't know what the deal. And if you need more proof than that, you know what I mean? Natural, not all that fructose, corn.
Yeah.
It's amazing what it does to your brain. It totally cleanses all that others. Never drink that American stuff ever again. And there goes my Coca-Cola advertising on Fade to Black right out the window.
Soda is a weapon. I once worked in a military PX where half of our warehouse for the food was groceries and the other half was soda. That's how much people were drinking.
Yep, by the cartload. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, David Wilcock. When we come back, Corey Good's going to be right here. I'll be right back.
My
everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Why do people order Life Change Tea? Because Life Change Tea helps the digestive system. Life Change Tea helps the colon unclog. The tea also helps with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and many, many other health issues. Life Change Tea also tastes great. And Life Change Tea is not just green tea. Life Change Tea is a unique blend of 8 different herbs that go to town, cleaning your body of harmful toxins, bacteria, and parasites. Our tea is number 1. Are you ready for your life change? Let the tea help you. Log on to our online store of helpful products to get your body on track. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Not all tea is equal. Read our website of all the factual testimonies that prove that Life Change Tea is working. Health is important, and our quality of life is very important. Don't wait to order. Expect a life change with Life Change Tea at getthetea.com.
Hi, I'm Richard Dolan. When I'm not hosting my radio program, The Richard Dolan Show on KGRA, or writing new books on UFOs, I run a publishing company. I'm proud to say that Richard Dolan Press has published some of the most fascinating books available on UFOs and related subjects. They include Dr. Bruce Maccabee's classic analysis of the UFO cover-up, David Marler's breakthrough book on triangular UFOs, Dr. Richard Sauter's unique work on underground bases, and other classics by Grant Cameron, Chase Kletsky, and Dr. Bob Wood, not to mention intriguing works by Eve Lorgan and Laurie MacDonald that deal with truly bizarre phenomena. I'm proud to publish such high quality and original works, and there are several amazing books about to be released over the next few months. Go to richarddolanpress.com to learn more.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our premiere on TalkNetwork.com. Welcome, everybody. Tonight, our guest, David Wilcock. We are now joined with Corey Good. He is now here. Tomorrow night, Peter Lavenda on the show. And then Wednesday, Robert Sullivan IV. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Corey, how are you tonight, sir?
Doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing great, Corey. Welcome back to Fade to Black.
Thank you.
And, you know, Corey, I don't know if you've been listening to David Knight tonight. I'm assuming that you are. But I got to throw this out of the gate. You've been talked about a lot this past year. I'm sure it's been a roller coaster for you. But now you've got a cape that you're wearing that says whistleblower right on the back. And that's a lot of pressure. How are you dealing with it?
I've definitely felt the pressure of it all, and you know, there have also been consequences from it, and you know, there's been a level of harassment around my physical location, not just on the internet by trolls and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So, you know, we had a couple break-in attempts to our house. We've had some pretty wild and crazy stuff go on. So, yeah, it definitely has not was not what all I expected it to be.
And it's going to get worse before it gets better. But this is the thing, as they say, right? The meek shall inherit the earth. Let's not forget that. And when things like that happen to good people, it's because you matter, right? Now, I'm going to give you a little piece of advice. I'm sure David has said these things to you too as well. They don't attack or harass people that don't matter. Okay? Always remember that. If it stops, then you have to say, then you're going to say, maybe I don't matter anymore. So always remember that. If it's happening, it's because your voice counts. And and I know during the dark times that doesn't mean anything, but if you can get solace in it, just remember those words. It's because you matter. So now, okay, let's. I want to talk about. I know you've got some updates, Corey, and let's get to that in a second. But and I've gotten a few emails here live during the show, and I'm watching some things over on Twitter too. Breakaway civilizations and underground stuff and things that are occurring right now. Do the breakaway civilizations are they overlapping with your contact and the things that you have experienced?
Overlapping as in are the experiences related?
Yeah, and could they be one and the same?
A lot of the time, the experiences people think that they're having with extraterrestrials or ascended beings are actually experiences that they're having with one of these ancient breakaway civilizations that mostly reside within the Earth.
Right. And what? Okay, you know what? Let's back up for a second. For the audience that may have not heard you speak before, or any of the presentations that you've done with David, help us right now and define the blue avians.
The blue avians are one of a group that the secret space program coined the Sphere Being Alliance. They don't call themselves that. They haven't called themselves anything as of yet to me. I'm sorry. What?
Well, because
what are the blue avians? I mean, that's a very broad question.
It is, yeah. And it's something that it's been spoken about so much on the internet, and there are people right now listening for some of your disclosure stuff. And when we reference blue avians moving forward with tonight, and we have just a little bit of time here, I just want you to define that for the audience so they have a reference point as to what we're going to be talking about.
Right. Okay. They're higher density group of beings that apparently are tied to what's going on in the solar system karmically somehow, and or energetically they're tied to it. So they are, I guess, they have their own vested interest in helping us overcome our yin and yang, and find balance and harmony, as they did. So they were able to go on to a higher plane of existence.
Since you were on with us last, which was probably, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, what contact have you had, and what information can you share with us?
With the blue avians, or are you talking about with
the Sphere Alliance in general? Yes.
Well, yeah. Mostly it's been with the Secret Space Program Alliance. There have been a couple meetings that I've had with the blue avians. Some of it has been information that's of a personal nature, or personal information about other people. And there's been they've really wanted to pull back from being in everybody's consciousness and everybody thinking about them. People are, reaching out to them with their minds and, looking outward instead of doing what, the message is about, which is them looking inward to shine the light inward into all those dark places and then, start to change the world one person at a time.
And if the collective consciousness here is thinking about them and reaching out to them, is that running interference in how they want to communicate with us? Is that why they are pulling back?
Exactly. Pardon me. I'm losing my voice.
That's okay.
Yes, they're pulling back because they do not want to be the focus of attention. They want us to focus our attention inwardly. So I will probably be giving updates and information about the SSP groups and also some of these other off-world groups. But the Blue Avians are wanting to take more of a backseat kind of position and let people look forward.
And what is the update with the SSP, the secret space program that you were referring to?
Well, there's actually it's several updates having to do with several different topics. Not all of which I've had an opportunity to brief David on. I plan on we're going to do that, I believe, tomorrow. But a lot of it has to do with all the negotiating that's going on in the background between the Earth-based alliance and the different secret Earth government syndicates or cabal-type groups. And they're negotiating what type of information will be released to the public, what type of transition will happen, and they're having the discussion with the people of the syndicate that are coming to the table to talk. Some of the more extreme people that we call the Illuminati, the more disturbed of the disturbed groups, are really planning on fighting to the bitter end.
When you say that they want to come to the table, what is it that they are proposing, and what is that agenda?
Well, the agenda is exactly what we're seeing unfold. A lot of the Earth Alliance have come to the decision that when we become a galactic, we get in contact with our galactic neighbors, we're obviously going to have to form some sort of new global government. And, the New World Order was not the way to go, but they wanted to find a way to do it responsibly and to bring everybody under a new financial system. And also to give people a partial disclosure about what's going on with certain aspects of the secret space program and eventually other beings, instead of like a massive data dump like the Secret Space Program Alliance has been pushing for.
Did you see, David, I can't believe we didn't bring this up, but we'll do it now. Did you guys see the Black Knight Satellite Pepsi 10-minute film?
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
And there's a very, very strong message that is there. And this is something that you and Corey have been talking about, or you and David, either way, for quite a long time. And then, Pepsi comes out with this. With this message, is that coincidence or is
no?
And
this would be an Illuminati group, because the ship that opens up at the end is perfectly in the shape of the Eye of Horus.
You saw that, didn't you?
Of course. So they're still trying to sell this narrative, which is their religion, that they are the descendants of fallen angels, extraterrestrials, which they believe are the good guys, that came here as part of a ruined civilization. Very few of them survived, but they landed here And that always seems to be how the negative goes. The negative gets almost completely wiped out, but just a few of them make it. And then they reboot the whole thing again. And that's why it is so tough to defeat these people, because they're so devout fundamentalist about their religion that if only a few of them make it, they're going to try to do it all again.
Corey, what do you think about the recent developments in the Middle East as well, between Saudi Arabia and Iran? I've been talking about this all night, but I don't think that this is coincidence to come on the heels of the reported successes that we were having in Iraq and Syria in that civil war and ISIS and so forth. And then immediately after, what little taste of good news the media was reporting, boom, the next day we have this discord going on between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Is that another attempt to keep this imbalance on planet Earth and our acceptance into the Galactic Federation?
Well, it is both a part of what this, I guess, cabal group has been stirring up over there, and also it's the side effects of them stirring things up over there. Russia and China finally stepping up. China's more involved than Western media's letting people know. But Russia is intensely bombing ISIS locations. There are ground troops in. They are they're cleaning up a big mess that was created by putting in these proxy armies that ISIS and these other groups that are also connected to Saudi Arabia and Turkey, usually split through, the big schism between the Shias and the
Sunnis. Yep.
Yeah. So it's very dynamic there. There's a lot going on, and a lot of it has to do with finally everyone knows that there are several proxy governments and proxy armies operating on behalf of the West, causing most of these problems in the Middle East. And they're coming together against these proxy governments and these proxy armies right now.
It's what's really funny, and David, you can jump in here too. Is there anybody in the West? I mean, when I say anybody, is there anybody in the West that really understands what is going on? If there was ever a definition of a proxy war, it's certainly what is happening right now. Does anybody in the West have any clue about what is going on there with the sectarian violence and the clans and the tribes that have been fighting each other for 1,000 years?
I would say absolutely.
I'm surprised at how many people are informed about what is going on and are turning to alternative media for information that they know they're not getting elsewhere. And they're educating themselves. They may hold it at arm's length, the information, because it's so different than the reality bubble that's been created for them. But, now they have this information, access to this information, and are paying attention to it.
David?
What we're seeing now is really the culmination of the revolution that started with Woodstock and the late 1960s. It's just finally gotten to a point where it's becoming a multi-generational combined vision of a future where we can imagine giving peace a chance, to quote John Lennon. And people want that. They don't want war. They don't want terrorism. They don't want that stuff. We don't need to play my God is better than your God, and no one in your society deserves more than being raped and tortured because we don't like your vision of the cosmic intelligence. We got to let go of that stuff. It's old world thinking, and it's a paradigm that has cost us countless millions of lost lives for ridiculous purposes. And we're all realizing now in our own way that there is a common enemy here, because this whole disclosure process, the way that these higher beings, like the Sphere Being Alliance, are orchestrating this is the cabal is completely hog-tied. They cannot crash the whole system. They are being forced to be exposed week after week, month after month, year after year, and they can't get people in concentration camps. They can't get the American economy collapsing so that people are going out into the yard and trying to eat their grass that they normally would mow. They're not able to get that to happen. They would love it to happen, but they're not going to get it to work. This whole process is going to continue to unfold in a way where lives are mostly preserved, in which our way of life is mostly preserved, and more people gradually awaken to this, but gradual awakening also is spiked with certain moments like the Snowden NSA disclosures where we find out, wow, these cool little toys where I was storing selfies of my dick and sending them to my girlfriend, guess what? Eddie Snowden is looking at that too. Okay, that's an invasion of our privacy. We're supposed to have a cloud. We're supposed to have security. We don't want these people looking in on our stuff, you know? Almost everybody had compromising stuff on their phone up until this happened. Some people probably say, oh, I got nothing to hide. You know, they're not going to come after me. That's the wrong attitude, man.
There's nothing on my phone. I can promise you that.
Yeah. Me either, man. I don't even...
No. To sit at the table with the Sphere Alliance, everybody that is that each civilization that is accepted into it, did they have to go through the process that we're going through now?
When are you you're talking about to get where they are now?
Yes.
They started off third, fourth density, and went through the whole process of ascending to each level to get to where they are now.
And not to be cavalier, but did they also have like a Black Knight satellite Pepsi film too? You know what I mean?
I really don't know what you mean. Are you talking about as their awakening process?
Yeah, I'm being tongue in cheek. But right now we're seeing that here. And did that same process happen with each civilization that was presented an opportunity to sit at the table?
And become a part of the Sphere Being Alliance?
Yes.
Yeah. All of these groups have gone through everything that we have, and they're far removed from it because they experience time differently and all kinds of other things. But they've gone through the same process, and they're tied to us energetically or karmically. And us not ascending or making any movement, we're acting like a parachute for them.
And why do you think? I think the Black Knight film. It's 10 minutes long. It's not. It's not a commercial. It's a film. It's done with intention. I find it remarkable in that it's never been presented to us before. And what better way to do it than with a celebrity, Usher, right? And a corporate conglomerate like Pepsi to present to the world. I find it fascinating that message is there for everybody to see.
Well, also, I put in one of my updates that that was exactly how the Earth Alliance and the people they were making deals with wanted to go about things. They wanted to, in science fiction and commercials, all the different media they control, they wanted to also start introducing some of the stuff that more people like us are going to be familiar with. Gray aliens, things from UFO lore, if you will be finding its way into mainstream science fiction more. I mean, it blew me away. My child was watching a TV show called Miles from Tomorrowland. It's a cartoon. And they were deciphering these stones and talking about the ancient builders. And I mean, I sat there with my mouth hanging open, watching it, and I DVR'd it. And I'm going to do a video clip of it and put it up. But it's nothing less than drip partial disclosure already occurring right now.
Can you imagine how many millions of people watched the Pepsi film and then went and Googled Black Knight satellite just to see if it was real or not, the subject? Mm-hmm. You know, and never before. I mean, they did our work for us. And David, you touched upon this earlier, but this is something that's very, very important. I talk about it all the time, which is the audience that is listening to us right now. It's the wrong audience. It's the wrong audience.
Exactly.
Because they're here because they get it. And they want reinforcement. They want some new information, and they're excited and that. But it's also the wrong audience. What Pepsi did for us is they did it to the right audience. The audience that has never heard of Black Knight Satellite or Federation or ET Contact or the Betterment of Earth or what we have to do to change the paradigm. Pepsi did that for us. They're speaking to the other audience.
Well, there's two levels to look at this, and I would encourage you to think back to Edgar Cayce, the noted American psychic who did 14,000 readings under deep trance where he didn't remember it when he woke up and could diagnose people's medical problems. It does appear, and most people who are aware of my work know this, that I am extremely similar to him in terms of how my face looks and my natal astrology, where the planets are when I was born. Several people that I know appear to be just like people in his life. So if you want to call that reincarnation or vibrational similarity, whatever. The point is that Casey did a reading during World War II with a group called the Glad Helpers. There was about 39 people in the room. And they asked, what can we do about World War II? Because remember, nobody wanted there to be a Hitler. You don't sit there and say, I'd love it if there was this crazy guy with a little mustache that's going to start killing everybody that he can and bashing through all these countries and bashing through their sacred areas and decapitating the governments. Nobody wanted Hitler, but he was there. What can you guys do sitting there in Virginia Beach in a little room with a man completely unconscious talking in trance? They said, what can we do? And the reading, which is basically it's obviously the same type of beings that are in the Spear Being Alliance that we're talking through, Casey, said there are enough people in this room right now to end World War II. And the reason why, again, gets back to the fact that this is a hologram and there's only one of us here. We are all holograms of the one infinite creator. We are all individual manifestations of a cosmic awareness. And when you go back to what happens in Tibet with these rainbow body meditations, once you really get the nature of cosmic awareness and you start to embody that awareness in your daily life, you'll be happy, you'll be a positive person, you'll be somebody that everybody wants to be around, and you eventually merge with that awareness. And that act is so beneficial to the earth that even getting part of the way there as a group, a small group of people, they're choosing, I'm going to make today a special day. I'm going to decide today to do something to create value for myself and for others. That has so much power that these negative groups, they just wither like vampires in the sunlight when you do that.
Let's take a quick break. Tonight, David Wilcock and Corey Good are with us. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. It's our premiere on TalkNetwork.com. Everybody just stay patient. When we come back, we've got to wrap with one thing and one thing only. What can we do? I want to hear from Corey. What can we do to affect change in 2016? I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. We'll be right back.
here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hi, folks. Ray Sobbs here with KGRA to tell you about something very special taking place in February 2016. I'm talking about the Space and Alien Snowfest Ufology Conference taking place at the beautiful ski and snowboard resort city of Big Bear Lake in sunny Southern California. We've got Richard Dolan, Chase Kletzky, Micah Hanks, Jason Martell, Jimmy Church, Linda Moulton Howe, Mike Barra, and keynote speaker Stanton Friedman will be presented a Lifetime Achievement Award. George Norrie and his producer Tom Danheiser from Coast to Coast AM Live will be with us all weekend. After the hectic holidays, gift yourself a retreat on top of the world the first weekend in February 2016 with a one-of-a-kind ufology event featuring some of the top minds in the field. Take advantage and book your lodging early and get your tickets now and register at aliensnowfest.com. I'll be there. Don't miss out.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for the ultimate Bluetooth speaker system? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system, featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. It's just $99, and you use the promo code Jimmy, and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, JimmyChurchRadio.com, promo code Jimmy, Gopekli Tepe.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back to Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Tonight, David Wilcock and Corey Good are with us. Tomorrow night, Peter Lavenda, right here. Wednesday, Robert Sullivan IV. And, of course, Thursday night, open lines. Corey, I had said, at the break there, that 2015 is behind us, and it was a mass of negative consciousness, and the ebb and flow of that around the world was just bad. It went south all year long. Here we are. We're in 2016. Yeah. What can we do?
Well, we've moved into a new operational mode for us as people who call ourselves truthers. You have to understand that this community has been infiltrated by these negative groups since it began in the late 40s, early 50s, and they've found ways, just like they always do, of keeping people separate and arguing with each other and building all of these new belief systems that cause us to put ourselves into a bubble instead of, expand outwardly when it comes to this information getting out. So we're going to have to, as a group, we're going to have to overcome all of these philosophical differences and bad blood. And we're going to have to start coming together out in a public way, doing protests, doing different things that bring attention not just to are there aliens in the world, but we want to know about this giant Ponzi scheme. We want to know that is the financial system. We want to know about secret technologies that could have made our lives better generations ago. Not just about are there aliens and UFOs, because the public has been programmed with the giggle factor on this topic so thoroughly that it's going to have to be something that is approached broadly. But it is time for all of us to come together and do this across the globe, not just in Washington, D.C. I'm talking everywhere, because continuing to do these meditations are great. They have a definite influence on what's going on in the world, but we have to put ourselves fully in it. And as embarrassing as you may imagine it to be to talk to people you would normally talk to about this kind of stuff, we're going to have to reach outside of our comfort zones, and we're going to have to be the change.
Well said. And David, I know you're going to say yes, everything that Corey said, but what can we do to affect change? Because Corey's absolutely right. There's no doubt about it. And I've been, I've gone public with it over the last week about just, one step at a time. We need to do this. If all of us are just a little bit better and a little bit nicer. You know what I said to everybody? I said, go out go do your Christmas shopping and go up to a complete stranger and say Merry Christmas, and watch what it does to their face. Little steps like that actually make a difference. But and how can you add to that?
To try to bring in some additional new information in the time that we have, I would recommend that people understand, getting back to what I said before, with chaos and complexity theory, I was describing particles of sand falling into a sand pile and that being modeled in a supercomputer, and that they could track where every particle was up until the system reaches peak instability. And then there is something like an avalanche. And in the aftermath of the avalanche, the sand pile reorganizes into a greater level of complexity. And so there is such a huge movement of forces now, including some of the intel we're getting now is that the Chinese now have developed their own black ops and special forces, very elite troops that are systematically wiping out everything that the cabal's got left of their proxy armies in Turkey, Saudi Arabia, all over the place in the Middle East, because that's really where one of the biggest battlefronts in this war is, with the fake ISIS.
That's right.
There's going to be a breaking of the dam. There's going to be a mass level of information saturation of new stuff, which will be like, as I've said before, the analogy, if you throw up, you'll feel better. And that's going to be the avalanche part. It's going to be people who have been kind of sitting this out, and they're living in fear, and they're not doing the homework, and they don't want to see Hitler. They don't want to look at, Hitler's already invaded their country. Paperclip project after World War II, all the Nazis came here, right? They don't want to see Hitler. They just want to stay asleep. Oh, well, he won't get me. I'm just going to stay in my house. I'll be fine. Okay, those people are going to be really shocked at any level of the disclosure of the stuff that we're talking about. Forget about even space program data dump. I'm just talking about even the most basic revelation that an intergenerational satanic cult has been running our financial system. That alone is going to create a mass trauma. If people find out that 9/11, if they get proof that 9/11 was organized by the Bush administration, that is going to cause a mass purging of negative emotion. And the people who are listening to this show will be you listening right now. I'll talk to you personally. You are absolutely instrumental in helping this thing go smoothly. You will be one of those agents of change that will help to ensure that people do not suffer from fear, because that's the great plague. It's very infectious and contagious. And the cabal, as they go down, moment by moment, bullet by bullet, even as their arms get blown off and their legs get blown off, they're going to try to spin the whole thing as if the people that are bringing them down are evil and they're good. And we've been brainwashed. We say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Oh, well, we're the only country that has freedom, right? Everybody else out there, they're all slaves. Look in the mirror, dude. It's just the opposite. We've had propaganda out the wazoo.
Yes.
We are like a Soviet gulag here. And when people have to give up that dream of America, the Sarah Palin is out there smiling with 10 million teeth in her mouth. Come on. It's over. America failed, but the dream of America needs to be reborn in the eyes of the people who want revolution and want the truth and are not willing to sit by and allow Hitler in the new form to just stamp over everybody in his blitzkrieg, because that's what's happening. You have to have the balls to fight back, and the fight is education. It's informing people about the truth, because they're going to laugh until you get Snowden 2.0, until you get the documents, until you get the proof. And then all of a sudden, these people, they're not going to want to get out of bed. You're going to have to go to their house. You're going to have to get them out of bed. You're going to have to make them take a shower. You're going to have to make them eat food, make them drink water, because they're going to be that upset. And we need to go through this. If we don't throw up, we will die from the poison. It's that simple.
Corey, do you think, David and I talked about this earlier, but there seems to be, and it's kind of obvious, that there has been this drip, drip, drip trickle of information, certainly about Mars, now that, there's flowing water on Mars, and they had an atmosphere, but it was blown away cosmically. I find that interesting. It was, probably done in a nuclear conflict, millions of years ago. And the prevalence of image information about objects that are just strewn all over the surface of Mars, and this information is being trickled out to us. Is it because if we have a civilian run at a Mars colony, that we're going to get there and find out that there was something there, and that there's a trickle of information now, so we're a little bit desensitized for when the big revelations come, which I think are going to be very soon?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that they're ramping up the preparation of mass consciousness and people of different demographics for some very uncomfortable information, although they're planning on doing a partial disclosure and give just larger drips until, people's thirst is quenched and they stop asking questions. And a lot of this stuff will be so amazing that people will be like, oh, free energy, and they'll turn their back to all the crimes against humanity that went on to keep all that stuff secret. And those crimes against humanity are what these elites, so-called elites, are going to be held accountable for. And that's what all these documents contain, are the evidence of their crimes. And a lot of these, sort of like the Snowden documents, a lot of this was the NSA's documents that they used to blackmail different people in power to toe the line. And now all this information has been released to most of the Earth Alliance groups, and so they don't want to let Schrodinger's cat out of the bag fully.
Is there? And I want both of you to comment on this. So I'll go with David first. That's a coin toss. Somebody said to me the other day, when you flip a coin, when you call heads or tails, no matter what you call, which way you want it to fall. right? It was kind of an interesting thing. But David, is there we're in an election year right now. Is there a cabal candidate right now?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Are you saying
somebody that's propped up?
Have they picked somebody that they definitely want? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Well, it's interesting because the Bush side of things has now been so thoroughly exposed that you got Trump at like 38% and Jeb at like 1%.
Yeah.
Okay, so nobody wants another Bush in there. I don't think there's any possible way, no matter how much they think they can manipulate things, I don't think there's any possible way they could get Jeb in there.
It's interesting how that happened. You know, it's pretty funny how somebody with the family, with the money, with the history and everything else, the CIA and so forth behind Jeb, that the status quo said no.
Well, think about this, Jimmy. How the heck did George Bush Sr. win an election the year after Iran-Contra, where it goes all the way up to the Defense Secretary of the United States of America, Caspar Weinberger, and obviously the president and the vice president knew about this, that they're selling weapons to a terrorist regime in Iran and then taking the weapons money to finance a terrorist regime in Nicaragua that is also involved in the production of cocaine.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre.
And then the year later, they win the election? I mean, come on. And then his son wins the election?
I know. It was
enough is enough.
It was pretty frightening. Corey,
he did it all himself. That's not true.
Corey.
They all knew what was going on. They get Ronnie Reagan out there. Oh, well, we were just trying to get rid of those nasty Russians that were in Nicaragua with their Sandinista regime. And we're just funding the Contras because we're fighting for America's future with nuclear war,
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, and we all knew it. We saw it happen.
Come on, everybody knew.
Yeah, exactly.
What were you going to say, Corey?
Yeah, Corey, is there a cabal candidate right now propped up?
What I was going to add about that very question is that a lot of times people do not become what we're calling a cabal asset until after they've achieved success and become a candidate, an actual candidate, or have already won power. And that's when they swoop in with either their blackmail material or their threats.
Yeah,
and
the phone
you
phone
then
call.
become an asset.
Yeah, you get elected, right? And you're all happy. You show up in the Oval Office and the phone rings, right?
Yeah, this is the guy that you're reporting to as the leader of the free world.
Yeah, make no mistake about it. Corey, make no mistake. Corey, what did you think about this thing with Hillary over the weekend, or actually last Thursday, but about her being, the disclosure, candidate, and her establishing a team to go out to Area 51. What did you think when you read that news?
I had not read that news. I saw a headline about it, so I don't know all the details. But I can tell you that any type of true and honest disclosure is not going to come from the government, and it's not going to come from any of the individuals that we would cast a vote for.
There you go. Okay, now, first off, thank you to the both of you for coming on the show tonight. I want to announce to everybody, first off, that Corey and David will be at the Conscious Life Expo in 5 weeks. Can you guys believe it? It's coming up.
My first public appearance.
And you don't know about this yet, Corey, but David volunteered for you to come on Fade to Black that night. So you guys are going to be speaking right after or during our broadcast that Friday night. But we're going to try to make some special arrangements for you guys to come down and jump on the show for about 5 minutes.
Corey and I go on stage at 8. You go on stage at 7. So there's a window of opportunity there if we get in early. So
yeah, we'll make it happen. Okay.
Yeah.
And so for everybody out there, the audience, That's at the LAX Hilton Conscious Life Expo. And if you go to jimmychurchradio.com, I'm sure if you go to divinecosmos.com, all of the information is there for the Conscious Life Expo. And that's right, Corey is going to be in public for the first time, and I look forward to it. We'll hang out, and we'll go have a drink or two as well, Corey. Okay? So
I'm game.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see you guys in 5 short weeks right here in Los Angeles. David, all the best, my brother. Keep rolling that rock uphill. Same to you, Corey.
Well, let's just add this one thing, too, very important.
Sure.
And that is, if anybody wants to see my show where I'm talking about the Alliance and I'm leaking all this proof of what they're up to and all the stuff now, I'm in a whole thing right now about the history of our solar system, all the ancient builder race stuff, and they want to see the show with Corey where I'm interviewing him, which goes way beyond what we've been able to cover here, go to blueavians.com. That's BLUEAVIANS.com. And if you sign up for the show through that, it's $9.95 a month. That's the only way that Corey and I get credit, financial credit, for you watching the show. So if you're going to do it, please do it through that portal.
There you go. Very, very well put. And all of the links are at jimmychurchradio.com, everybody. So if you want to go do it, click, you can go straight there. And there you go. And listen, really quick, this just came up. Corey, both of you, are you guys protected by the Sphere Alliance and the Blue Avians? Do they run a defense line in front of you guys?
Yeah, a certain degree, and it's purely also dependent on our behavior and actions. We can nullify protection or authorize a negative attack by us not behaving ethically or properly.
There you go. You guys behave, okay? There you go, Corey. There's my advice. Behave.
You can count on it.
Yeah.
You can count on it.
I'll talk to you guys. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
See you, Corey. See you, David.
All right.
Corey, good. David Wilcock, thank you so much. What a great night and premiere on TalkNetwork.com. And, of course, KGRA, The Planet. This is truly bespoke radio for the masses. For all of you new listeners tonight, now you got a little taste of what Fade to Black is about. This is an open-ended conversation about spreading knowledge, and this is what I ask everybody. I say this on every single show. Listen, keep your ears open. That's what you do. You don't learn if you talk too much. You need to open up your ears, and that's how you learn. And then you take what you've listened and learned and been exposed to on this program, and then you go and do your research yourself. Go out and investigate. Question everything. And that's how you learn. Last night, I'm going to say this really quick. Last night, I was at a dinner party. And at this dinner party was a young college student. And we were talking about Darwin. We were talking about the past. We were talking about Egypt. We were talking about everything, about how we got here. Homo sapien, sapien, us, Homo erectus, how we got, what makes us so special? How did it possibly happen? And I was throwing out different scenarios. That's all. Just to listen. And this student, this college student said, no, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to listen to this. Evolution, Darwin, evolution. I said, look, see, that's the thing. You just said you had an open mind. And now you're saying you don't want to listen to anything. And all I am suggesting to you is go and check things out. Just listen. Open your ears. You have never learned anything by not listening. It's impossible. It was frightening to me to go through this last night, where I'm just thinking, this is what's going on out there. Not just in colleges, in our schools. No, I'm talking about in general. One must have open ears. That's all. Listen to the possibilities. That's all. And then go and take what you've learned on this show. Go after the show is done, you just go out and you hit the net. You talk to your friends. Go read some books. Go check things out. Watch a couple of videos and learn. Now, you may disagree. You may, after it's all done, you may go, well, you know what? You know what, church? Okay, that's cool, but no. Well, you know what? That's fine. But always have open ears. I was told when I was a very, 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 very young man, there's too many people in this world that don't listen and are too busy talking. Nobody is listening. And I'm talking about, I was 5 or 6 years old when I was given that advice. And I have lived that every single day since. And it's shocking to me how I can look around and see that. It occurs all day long. David said something earlier, and it was totally on point. Totally on point. Just go and discuss. Corey said it. Just go and pick somebody. As difficult as it is of a subject to talk about, go and talk about it and see. That's all you have to do. And that's what this show is all about. So there you go. Welcome to all of the new listeners. I do have to thank David Rubini, Dean Ryan, Don Naylor, and of course, Mike Adams and the entire team and network over at talknetwork.com and Natural News. Thank you for everything that you did. This was a long road putting this entire thing together. We are well rehearsed because we did the same thing nearly a year ago today with KGRA, The Planet. Now we have 2 syndicators that are entrenched in the truth, alternative media, and getting that collective together and spreading knowledge. It's been a long road, and tonight we did it. We're here. 2016 is here. I've said it, and I really mean this. One step at a time, make it a little better. One step at a time, be a little nicer. One step at a time, just make it a little bit tastier. And together, we can change the world. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This has been Fade to Black. I want to thank David Wilcock and Corey Good for an extraordinary conversation tonight. Our executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas, Dennis, Bob, all of you, thank you. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Viteau, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew, the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication, KGRA The Planet, and TalkNetwork.com.